So I'm just recording this at my desk for the sake of efficiency. I got a ton of scripts that I'm working on for videos. Y'all are going to be eating content well into the new year. So if you're excited about that, subscribe to the channel, support me on Patreon. There's a bunch of fun stuff coming on the horizon. So that said, I didn't intend to do a video of any kind on Netflix's Cowboy Bebop because it never felt right. The original anime is one of the best anime of all time. I won't dispute that. It's a series that I like, that I quite like. In fact, watched it once when I was young, and I watched it alongside Netflix's version of it, just for fun, really. That's just something to do, not even being a slave to the algorithms of content creation, just on my own time. And you know what? It still holds up. It's still really good, strong in a multitude of ways. The episodic stories, the animation, the characters, the messages, it's all great. But even so, it's not a series that I hold a tremendous amount of sentimental value toward. But then again, I don't really have that for a great many series. I mean, there's stuff that I like, stuff that I really like, stuff that I love, in fact, that holds a special place in my wilted little heart. But even then, if it gets remade or rebooted, I'm not one to go and reach for a pitchfork. But I fully admit, that's me. Which is why, no matter what I felt about Netflix's Cowboy Bebop, I wasn't going to do a video on it at all because, honestly, it's a no-win situation, right? Like, if I come out here and I say, I don't like it, well, then I'm just another hat in a sea of hats getting thrown into the rink after a hat trick. It doesn't stand out at all, and I've just lost my hat. But if I do like it, then I get to deal with all the weirdo purists who are pissed off because this thing exists and the new thing can't exist because it's not the original, but it also can't be a copy of the original because then it's just a soulless rehash. So I was content to stay in my little realm of neutrality all the way until Jeff Thu of Mother's Basement released his hour-long critique of Netflix's Cowboy Bebop, and then I was like, okay, maybe I should do something. And it's not because his video is bad. It's actually quite good. I'll link to it in the description. You should check it out. It's really good. Not that you really need me to tell you that. But in that video, there were some things that he said that I agree with, some things that he said that I disagree with, and here we are now. And it's not even because I feel strongly in one direction or the other about Netflix's Cowboy Bebop, but just because the discourse surrounding it is just so fucking infuriating. That said, let me start briefly with my opinions on Netflix's Cowboy Bebop. It's fine. It's fine. The cast does a great job with what they're given. There are some episodes that I thought were pretty good. There were some aspects of the series that I thought weren't so good. And that was to be expected. I think anime rarely translates well to live action. There's just aspects of it, especially in a stylized anime like Cowboy Bebop, that aren't going to be realized well, practically impossible to realize well in live action, no matter how many expensive computers you use. The best they could have hoped for, honestly, the best they could have hoped for with this was for it to look like an expensive fan film. And that's kind of what it is. I feel like I could have seen this released at MagFest a few years ago, like that Sonic fan film or the Mega Man one. And that's not exactly a high bar, and to a high-budget production like this, it might sound like an insult. But that's the name of this game, that's the way it's played, and it doesn't bother me one bit. And the reason for that is I knew what to expect with this. I had no false pretenses of what this was going to be, but let me put myself in the shoes of the most vocal people, the ones most vehemently against this show's entire existence. How would I feel if my favorite anime of all time or whatever was given a similar Netflix treatment? Honestly, I wouldn't care. I mean, my favorite anime of all time probably have the best chances of being realized well enough in live action, to be honest with you. Steins Gate, Baccano, Psycho Pass, Future Diary. Well, maybe less so with Future Diary, but those other three, yeah, probably would be fine. And I wouldn't mind, because ultimately I want people to join these fandoms. I don't want to gatekeep people away from an easy access point to something that's considered niche. Now, this is purely anecdotal, but there are two people I can vouch for that I know personally who checked out Netflix's Cowboy Bebop without ever having seen the original anime and liked it enough to where they want to check out the anime now, and I think that's a good thing. But Chris, you're getting into the high register, and I have to say, it's so different. If the creators were truly fans, would they have changed so much? That's a valid question, and I can only speculate as to the answer. My best guess is it's a different medium, so a lot had to change to release it as it is. episodic anime of 1998 is a far different beast from binge-friendly, overarching stories of 2021, which is what this is. The original sessions were self-contained and separate, and everything in Netflix's Bebop connects to something that came before, sets up something to come after. As such, they had to change some things. And I get not liking those changes, I really do. But if the one you're most vocal about is Faye Valentine's clothing, might I recommend growing up? It's okay for the femme fatale to wear pants. If you don't like the changes to her character, that's fair game. Comparatively speaking, not a whole lot changes with Spike and Jet. A lot of the changes that happened to the characters were done to Faye, and I totally get not being cool with that. She's more snarky in this, she's more of a goofball in this, which fits with what we were presented with, but it is a pretty radical departure from the Faye from the anime. And I've seen a lot of people attributing this to the Whedon-esque dialogue, so first things first, let me just say, fuck Joss Whedon. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the dialogue. The snarky, quippy irreverence that Joss Whedon popularized in Buffy the Vampire Slayer that then took over the Marvel Cinematic Universe has become ubiquitous in film and television. Now, is a film or a series automatically bad for using this style of dialogue? No. Is the style of dialogue automatically bad because the person who popularized it is a piece of shit? Also no. That's ridiculous. H.P. Lovecraft was a piece of shit, but Lovecraftian style aesthetics is still adored to this day. What matters in this instance is if those jokes and those quips land, which for the most part in Netflix's Bebop, they don't. They don't. There are some decent ones. There's some even great jokes in here, but a lot of duds. And if that doesn't just encapsulate this whole thing, sometimes Netflix's Cowboy Bebop works, sometimes it doesn't. Faye's episode with Whitney Matsumoto is great. I think it's one of the best episodes in the series, in my opinion. Vicious is terrible in all aspects. He's awful. Just a very bad performance, bad villain, a whiny, breathy... Ugh, he's just terrible. He's bad. It's not better than the anime, but who would ever say that? That's not even an argument that could ever be had. It's never was going to be a carbon copy of the original because it can't be. What's here is serviceable, and honestly, after some of the stuff I've seen done in live-action adaptations of anime, that is a step in the right direction. I think there are improvements that can be made to Netflix's Cowboy Bebop for sure. I think if the team focuses more on world building and just letting these characters have adventures in the inevitable season 2, I think they've got the makings of something potentially great. And if it gets more people interested in the original anime, I think that's a good thing too. Just stop being weird about it. You know, don't cling to old media like it's some beacon of perfection that needs to be protected at all costs by internet weirdos. Alright? It's fine. Be like water. Whatever happens, happens. Oh, and be nice to Eden Perkins. Like, they are a child, you raving lunatics. Oh, and one more thing. Can we just admit, right, like, that this series really is 10 out of 10 great material because Ein is a good doggo and I just want to pet his floofy little face? Okay, that's all I've got. I've said my piece. I bid you adieu.